beats. And I knew immediately that this was the Arabian, that the man had taken her out and he was out of control because when you're in at a stable, you don't run your horse back to the barn. That's just a big no-no. So as I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, what do I do? If I thought, okay, I'll sit here. She will turn on the trail to the barn and run the Arabian. She'll run directly to the barn, but she didn't. She came she came right at me. And I thought about getting off of my horse, but then I thought I'm probably going to be trampled. That was a real possibility. So I thought, okay, if I stay on my horse, she's going to stop. She didn't stop. Um, and my horse began to get really nervous and dance around, and I was trying to keep her calm. And this horse ran right up to us, barely clipped us. Um, and then she managed to flip around and head back to the barn. I could see the man when the man had dropped his reins, and he was just holding onto the saddle horn for dear life. And
So,
I remember thinking as she was approaching me, if she steps on those reins, his horse is gonna.
so they were arguing. The guy and his wife were arguing about who's gonna ride the horse. That is hilarious. And eventually, he won the argument per se. So he's the one riding the horse, but still, the Arabian horse or Arabian stallion. I love the name. Stallion is misbehaving. So she's on a different horse, whereas the Arabian stallion is being rid. Oh, it's rid on by the man, the other man that's arguing with his wife, supposedly.
Gonna flip and they could both get badly hurt. But when she clipped my horse or just kind of brushed right past my horse reared up. And I dropped my reins and grabbed her mane and held on. She came back down. Second time she
Oh,
reared up, she stepped with her back feet stepped off the trail and it was a slope. And she flipped over backwards onto me, falling across my
really?
body, crushing me. And I saw her body coming. When she hit my chest, I died. It stopped my heart. And I left my body, found myself 30, 40 feet up in the air looking down. I knew I was dead. There was no question in my mind. I knew that was my body. I knew I was dead. And I was watching everything happen, and I had two thoughts. I number one, I was hoping my horse wasn't injured, and I saw that she got up and ran down towards the barn after that other horse. The second thought was that my sisters were there, my younger sisters, and they were both watching this. And I saw my little sister scream and cover her face
Oh,
with her
wow.
hands, and I saw my other sister who was sitting in the car press her face against the car window, and I said aloud, at least as far as I could tell it was aloud, "I wish my sisters didn't have to see me die." And when I said those words, I suddenly noticed that there was a light flowing over my right shoulder. It was a golden light. It was almost like water flowing over my right shoulder. I knew it wasn't the sun. The sun would have been up there and there were clouds. This was directly over my right shoulder. So I turned around and I saw a man up there with me and he was smiling at me and I recognized him instantly. And it was Jesus. I shouldn't have seen Jesus. I'm Jewish. I had always been told he was a hoax.
Wow.
I had not read the New Testament. I'd once glanced at a verse, the open.
Hold on. So Jews are being told that Jesus is a hoax, and we that are Gentiles are so enamored. Well, not all Gentiles, but Gentiles that know Christ are so enamored by his being, but his people per se, quote unquote, his people on earth, right? Where he was, the lineage he came from, being told that he was a hoax. So the devil has managed to deceive them that much. Wow, interesting. Huh. I never thought about it.
Opening verses of Matthew. That was it. And I hadn't even read all of my Hebrew scriptures, but I saw him there and I recognized him instantly. And he moved forward until we were right next to each other. And I said, "Hi, I know you."
She's
And
also
he was grinning from ear to ear. This was like an amazing reunion. I was so happy to see him. He was so filled with joy, so happy to see me. And I knew I'd known him my entire life. There was no there was no like, "Oh, who are you?" Or I did believe me, I knew exactly who this
But
was.
this is
This
funny, right? She's being told as a Jewish person that Jesus is a hoax, so she doesn't really know him. But when she sees him in the spirit realm, she just automatically knows him. Isn't that crazy in a good way? Is what I mean. That one of the similarities that almost all these near death experiences have when they meet Jesus is they know him automatically. There's a light, and he's full of love and joy. Hmm, interesting.
there was no question in my mind. It was total truth.
Total truth. I like that.
So
Total
we
truth.
began
That is what
talking,
he
and
is.
as he was there with me, I knew a lot of things were happening below me, but I
He has a way with
stopped
words.
paying any attention. I didn't care anymore. I only cared about Jesus. And as we were above my body, he offered me a life review. It wasn't, he wasn't condemning me as I watched my life. He was supporting me as I watched my life.
Interesting.
I was condemning
Oh
myself.
wow.
If I did something kind, I felt that kindness as though I was the recipient of the kindness. If I did
That's
something cruel,
interesting.
I felt that. I felt what the other person felt. I felt it in my heart, what that person felt. And as I'm up there with Jesus, I realized I I was disappointing him. I didn't wanna do that again. I didn't want to ever.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm
You're
perfect.
perfect in Christ.
Once in a while, my mouth will get away run away with me. I didn't wanna do that again. I didn't wanna hurt people because that was his primary focus is, how do you love God? How do you love me? And how do you love my creation? How do you treat my creation? Those were his 2 questions for me. And I knew I wanted to be what he wanted me to be. And after the life review, we left the scene of my death. He took my hand, and the only way I can describe this, because it's really hard to describe what we did. It was almost like flying, but it wasn't flying. Um, we surfed. We body surfed on a wave of light,
Oh,
and it was underneath our feet. It was
that
rolling
is
underneath our
cool.
feet, all
Ooh,
colors, all colors. You cannot even
really?
imagine all the colors in that wave of light. It was like a wave of water, but it was light. We body surfed
I,
on this wave of light. We
I want to
went
experience that. I really
basically
do want to
through the
experience that.
universe. I saw a lot of stuff, and mostly what I saw because I was looking at Jesus' face, so anything we passed behind his face, I could see. My focus was on him. I saw all the beauty, but of all the beauty of the universe, he was the
Beautiful.
most beautiful. I didn't want to look
I
away
can
from his
imagine.
face.
I
And
cannot
as
imagine
we're
actually.
surfing, he said, "This is so cool." And I said, "Yeah, this is so cool." It was the most fun thing I had ever done in my life. So we're surfing and we're going faster and faster and faster. And we came to a point where, and I saw individual things as we're surfing. We came to a point where there was no more individuation. I didn't see individual things. I saw one thing, and I realized that was God, that everything was a part of God, that there was no place in this universe where there is not
Okay.
God.
That is profound wisdom right there for me, because I heard a preacher talk about God, and he said that God is a being that eternity comes out of him, that from him eternity came. I could not for the life of me conceptualize this. But what she just said makes sense. So what she just said explains to me how eternity comes out of him. Everything comes out of him, every part of sphere of this universe. So this also gives me understanding to a theory that I have. Nobody's ever told me this, but this is my theory. Comment on what you think about it. But so God is God separated the realms of hell and heaven because they were part of him, but hell is the despicable, evil, disgusting part of God. And heaven is the opposite, the most loving, filled with nourishment, righteous, pure, blemishless part of him, love filled. So if everything in the universe is connected to him, or he's connected to everything in the universe because he created everything in the universe, then yes, hell is a part of him, just the part of him that is not good, right? So he created a being. Well, he didn't create Jesus. Jesus is God, never created, but he sacrificed Jesus as he's the only begotten son to die so that we as his creation would choose, who have the gift of choice in order to where we end up, because these two realms, heaven and hell, are eternal. So if we choose either one, we will still be eternal, right? So that makes sense to me in so many ways, more than I can even describe in this video. But that is beautiful, huh? This is why, to me, my kind of person, I have a curious mind, so I have a lot of questions about things, and a revelation is what usually answers most of the questions I have. Not just knowledge, bare knowledge. There, just a revelational knowledge is what I mean. So what she said to me, it's a revelational type of knowledge that cannot, should not be taken lightly. Very powerful, huh?
and in our created universe. So as I
Hold
realized
on.
that,
What does she mean in our created universe? So does that mean there is an uncreated universe and then a created universe? I know she can't answer that, but that is that she has a way with words though. You got to give it to her. Very powerful way with words.
that we approached a threshold. It's not really a threshold. There aren't terms in human language to explain what I saw, but we approached almost like a doorway, and we went through that doorway. When we went through that doorway, and Jesus is still holding my hand, I saw a light. It was a white, blemishless light. It was perfect. It was alive, and it was love. And I knew that was God the Father. Jesus took me directly into the light, and at that point, Jesus and the light were one thing, but still separate, but still
Mm.
one thing. It made
It,
perfect
it makes
sense to me
perfect
when I
sense to me. That's why the Trinity makes more sense to me than most people would think. Yeah, it's one God in three beings in one God. So they kind of join themselves together sometimes. Makes perfect sense to me.
was dead. It's harder to
No,
describe when I'm alive.
sounds good to me.
And the next thing I knew, I was sitting on God's lap. Now, how God can have a lap, I don't
What does
know.
she mean? She doesn't know. We're created in His image and likeness. So God has two legs, I suppose. Two legs, 2 feet, 2 hands, 2 arms. So yeah, He should have a lap if we're created to look like Him in His image and likeness, to look like Him, right? And image and likeness should be more of a character thing, but image. He has one head. I don't think He has multiple heads. You know what I mean? So it makes perfect sense to me. Just saying.
Light can have a lap. I was sitting on God's lap like a little toddler. He's a big God, kicking my legs. I had my face buried in his chest. I had my arms around him. He had his arms around me. And it was perfect love. It was acceptance. It was forgiveness. It was comfort. It was all the love in the universe in this one being who not only was sitting so that I could sit on his lap, but extended infinitely in all directions. So if the way I have to explain it is picture a man with a robe of light. I couldn't no, I tried to see his face, I couldn't see his face. It was like shrouded or clouded or something. But a man wearing an infinite robe of light. It extends in all directions. It takes up all space and time, and that's what I experienced. As I was
All
sitting there,
time.
I realized God wanted to show me something. In order to show me what he wanted to show me, he had to withdraw a portion of his light, and this was infinitely far away. This was super far away. I was really nearsighted in real life. My vision was like 2600 in both eyes, so I wore really thick glasses from that second grade. I was really nearsighted. But here I'm looking at something that he's showing me infinitely far away, and I can see every detail as if it's
Right, right.
right here. The first thing I saw was grass. The grass is the thing that sticks with me every single day of my life. The grass was perfect. I could see every single blade of grass in this infinite sized meadow. It was green, like we have green grass here, but it was true green. All the colors in heaven are true colors.
So
Colors
there
here
is a difference between true colors and colors. But of course, it's heaven. Everything is more 4K, 8K, more, infinity K, in crispiness and in HD qualityness, for lack of a better term. So that makes sense to me. Yeah. Okay.
here, even on the most beautiful day, are a reflection of the colors in heaven. They're a part of that, but it's not the same because the colors in heaven are living colors. The grass was alive.
Man,
And I looked a little farther. I saw flowers, all different kinds of flowers, but I kept my eyes kept coming back to some flowers that resembled irises. They were this very deep purple blue, and I could see every vein in the petals. I could see every grain of pollen. I could see every part of the flower. I looked a little farther and I saw massive groves of trees. These were huge trees. And they were, it's kind of like a grove of aspens because I could see every leaf on every tree. I could see every vein on every leaf on every tree. This is infinitely far away, and this is an infinite sized grove of trees. And I could see every vein on every leaf on every tree. And I realized the leaves were quaking, and I realized the flowers were moving because the grass was singing. The grass was singing the praises of God,
wow,
and
beautiful.
everything I saw was swaying to the song of the grass and singing the praise
Right.
of God. I looked a little farther and I saw this path open up through the meadow, and I followed it. It kind of wound its way through the meadow. I saw people coming, and they were singing the same song as the grass. They were singing the praises of God. And as I'm looking at this, and there was a veil between us. I couldn't make out their faces. I just knew they were coming. I could hear their voices. Suddenly, Jesus was there again. And he said, "You didn't die. You have to go back." And I knew he meant, like I tell people, I wasn't dead enough. I wasn't dead, dead. I was dead, but I wasn't permanently dead. So I said, "No, I'm
No
not going
way.
back." And I buried my face back in God's chest and closed my eyes. I was not going back. So Jesus took my hand and he said, "You didn't die. You have to go back." And I
He's not
said, "No,
playing.
I'm not going back." He pulled me off God's lap and we're standing there. What you stand on in heaven, I don't know.
It's
We're
almost,
standing
it's almost like a big brother, and you are in the lap of your father. And he tells you you got to go do certain things, and you refuse, and he just pulls you away. Oh Lord, that is trying to make it realistic, but that's another thing that everyone has in common. I don't want to say everyone because not everyone that has a near death experience have the same testimony, but majority of them that encounter Jesus have the same, almost the same testimony. So, but one thing they have in common is they refuse to go back. Every single one refuse to go back. This world is not our home. Do you understand this? So I understand when your spirit leaves back to your home, you don't want to go back to this wretched place. And this is why we don't mourn like the world mourns when someone dies, because these people are that die and go to heaven, they are in a much better place. They should not be, you should not be crying like crazy, like the world cries, like someone has no hope. These people are in much better place than we are right now. If anything, they should be crying for us. You know what I mean? Because the wonder that they are experiencing is it's outstanding. It's beyond words. So to me, we shouldn't grieve like they grieve. We should mourn but not grieve. There's a difference. You can mourn but not grieve. The world mourns and grieves. The grief is not part of our mourning, or the grief is not part of our mourning, yes. So we can mourn and be a little bit, sad that we're missing someone, but then we have an understanding that they are in a glorious place beyond words could ever say or mind could ever conceptualize. So she refusing to go. I refuse to go too, just saying. So, but Jesus is not playing. He's like, you got to go back. That is funny, man.
There facing each other, he said, "You didn't die, you have to go back." And his voice was very firm. He was very firm about this. And I just started yelling at him. I was a
No
teenager.
way.
And I said, "I'm not going back. I'm not going back. I'll feel pain." I did not want to go back. But this time, bam, we were right above my body. I'm with Jesus right above my body. I'm laying there on my left side. I can see myself laying on my left side. And I see the ranch owner, Charlie, crying and praying. He's kneeling down by my body. My sisters are crying. My horse is standing there
Wow.
because Charlie had jumped on my horse and ridden her out of the barn to look for me when she went running into the barn and he realized I wasn't on her back. Everything was quiet. Everything was just silent other than Charlie crying and praying and my sisters crying. My horse was just standing there. And I'm looking at my body thinking, how am I supposed to get into this body? I did not want to get back in that body.
I wouldn't want
And
either.
Jesus
Just saying.
shoved me in from the back. Just shoved me in. It's like, and I hit the inside of my skull. Whatever spiritual body I had, which was an actual body, I hit the inside of my skull and I panicked. I was so claustrophobic in my body. I did not want to be there. I didn't know how to be one with my body. I didn't know how anything worked. I was struggling inside my body, but my body didn't move. And suddenly Jesus was in my body with me and he meshed me together. He made me one person again. He put my
He is the creator
spiritual body back into my
of your
physical
spirits.
body.
You hear that?
And he said a few things. I mean, he said a lot of things while we were traveling, which he's actually a really hilarious guy. But
Interesting.
he said to me, "Your life is in good hands." And I didn't get that initially. I said, "Well, what is everyone else? Chopped liver? Isn't their life in good hands?" And I realized what he was talking about was
That was rude,
faith,
lady.
that no matter
That
what
was rude.
happens, good, bad,
To
indifferent,
Jesus?
my life is in good hands. I
Interesting.
was in his hands. And when he left me with his presence, which was I learned later because I knew nothing about the Trinity. My father said the Trinity is like paganism or something, idolatry. I didn't really have a
Father was
comprehension of
wrong.
that. I didn't have an understanding of that, but he left me with his presence, which is the Holy Spirit.
Powerful. Forward. So I got to stop it there so we don't have to, you know, watch the whole thing now. I want you to go watch it at the guys. I'm going to put the link in the description, by the way, so you can watch the rest of the video. Amazing testimony. She's Jewish and she turned to Christ, and she is a Jewish woman, as she described it, a Jewish woman that serves Christ, that's a Christ follower or something like that. So very good testimony. I don't want to spoil the suspense and the rest of the story, but yeah, that's the end of my reaction. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, and comment below. Agree with me, disagree with me. It's okay. My name is Great Akudo, and this is the Akudo Experience. Don't forget to subscribe or follow us on all social media at the Akudo Experience. Okay, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, Instagram, and on YouTube, of course. So yeah, but I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.